year did you graduate from Edge? How long were you here for?
So I graduated in 2009 and I was there from grades 10, 11, and 12.
Okay. And why did you initially choose to come to Edge back then? Was it a family decision? Was it a personal choice? How did you kind of come to the decision to come to Edge?
I was rhythmic gymnastics was my sport of choice, and I was training 20 to 20 plus hours a week. And in junior high, I went to a small private school, and they were fairly flexible with letting me leave early to go to the gym because training started at like 2 or 3 p.m. And then when we started looking at high schools, it became pretty obvious that the average public school or even private school wasn't as flexible with their schedule. So Edge, it was kind of between Edge and National Sports School, and we felt that Edge had a really good community, and they were obviously very flexible and allowed me to kind of work my schedule for what I needed with training.
So what did we really do for you back then? I mean, obviously we still have a flex program for student athletes in different sports, but how did we help you with that flexible approach? Obviously it's kind of helping you balance between schoolwork and training and all that, but how would you describe the flexibility that we did offer you?
I think the main thing was that I was able to make my schedule so that I was done classes by 2:30 and I wasn't missing a class. And this is going back now over 10 years, so I'm trying to remember exactly what was going on, but my schedule was able to end early. I could put I think a study hall at the end of the day that was fine if I missed. And then whenever I went on competition trips, which would be anywhere from a 2-day trip to 2 weeks away to go to Europe or something to compete, they were really good at making sure that I had the information beforehand of what I was going to be missing, assignments and all that. And of course that was before we all had high enough tech to be able to wire into classes. So I basically would do my homework and then come back and submit everything, and it seemed to work out okay, right? So yeah, it was just that flexibility really, which is why they obviously called it the flex program.
Absolutely. When you look back at your time here, what did you think about your experience? How did you like it?
I liked it. I liked the smaller class sizes. I went to my elementary and junior high. I was in a small private school, so going to a big high school was kind of daunting at that time for me. And I was a fairly shy person. I would go to school, go to the gym, didn't do a lot of after school typical kid activities. It was you go to school, you do your sport, you get your homework done. So having a good community at school for friends was a really nice thing to have. In my day, there was less of a variety of sports at the school, I think. Right. I think you guys have kind of broadened a lot more now. Your dance program's way bigger, some of those other niche sports, and it was a lot of hockey and soccer, I think, were the kind of the two main ones when I was there. So it was definitely interesting going to school with a class of 70% hockey players, and then me and another equestrian, and that was kind of it for the class. So it made for a unique experience, but it was good.
Is there a particular memory that sticks out from your time here, or a few memories that you kind of look back on and say, I really enjoyed my days there at Edge?
You have to dig back through the archives. I think the all the mountaineering, the team building aspects and having those, I forget what you call them, the mount days and whatnot, where we'd have to do fun activities and all that, were really good. I did enjoy, it's kind of counterintuitive, but I did enjoy, because in grade 10 we had, even as flex students, we had to take PE 10, whereas all the hockey and all those sports were exempt because their sports program was obviously part of the school. But for some reason at that time they wouldn't let me justify that I was training 20 hours a week and that should count for my PE 10. So PE 10 was me and 7 rugby players, a couple equestrians, and it was kind of an oddball group, and we had a lot of fun in that class. And it was a mix of 10, 11, and 12s, I think, because some people had just put it off. They were like, I'll do PE 10 whenever. So I always thought that was a fun time. It was nice to have a different group of people to get that kind of range of personalities and ages too.
Was there someone at Edge that influenced you the most during your time here? Was it one person? Was it a couple? Is there anyone that comes to mind for you?
I think some of the teachers that I had in, 10, 11, and 12, there's a few that stick out, and they're probably all retired now or not with the school. It's Mr. Solberg. David Solberg was my physics 30, I think, and physics AP teacher. He was really influential in me going into engineering for post-secondary. Don Checkley was a big influence in grade 10. He was like an amazing teacher, and I think everybody in that class, I think we were there for his last class when he retired, and it felt like a really special thing. And then Mr. Cheatham for English was really a really good person to learn from. I really enjoyed his classes and felt like I really gained a lot of perspective from him.
Mr. Checkley, I don't know, we have the mascot Checkley now, and it's actually based on him. He was that influential. He did back then too. Yeah, he was the mascot when I was there too. Oh, really? Oh, so that's just been a whole thing.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Like, obviously that was well before my time. So I've just kind of heard the story that it even looks like him, I guess, the mascot costume. So
it does. Yeah, exactly.
So what advice do you have for current students who want to make the most out of their experience at Edge, or general advice for upcoming grads? What would you say to them?
Like, listen to your teachers and take their advice and heed it well, because they know what they're talking about, and they know what you're going into, and they've seen it before enough times. And I think a lot of kids will brush off that, oh, it's just another teacher telling me the same thing. But like, listen to them and listen to what their advice is and their opinion on your potential and where you could go and what you can do. Because I think it's easy as a kid, you kind of think, oh, I know everything, and now I'm in grade 12, I've seen everything. But you don't really realize that those teachers have seen this over and over, and just to take their advice is really valuable. And for new grads, I mean, I think like take every opportunity and analyze it. Don't say no to something just initially because you're afraid or not sure if it's for you. I think, having an open mind makes a big difference.
Having lived through, 3 years coming to the school, if a prospective student or family was considering Edge as an option, what would you say to motivate them to come to a school like this?
I would tell them that, depending on what they're looking for, if they're highly motivated in sport or highly motivated in academics, I would say that it's a perfect fit for that, because you guys really push for that blend of high achieving athletes and students. And the flexibility and like options that you guys have. It's not just as you come to this school, we put you through the same path as for every kid and you get the same result. There was kids that barely came to school in my class, but were still able to graduate based on the flexibility of the staff and the teachers.
Last question related to Edge specifically before we kind of jump into what you're up to now, but how did Edge prepare you for post-secondary for your career?
I think having those high expectations really helped prepare me. There was a small class, a competitive class with like high achieving kids all around. There was a lot of really smart people in my class, a lot of athletes that went on to do great things. And I think having those standards of excellence as almost like that's your average, I think that really helped me kind of keep pushing myself to go at least meet those and go above and beyond those. And you don't really realize until you're out of that system that you go, oh, someone got through school, getting C's and D's, and they're in the same program as me. But, I'm continually pushing to go higher and higher, whereas some people would like to just kind of coast along. So I think that really prepared me for being able to push myself and meet both my own expectations and those of my university and employer.
So you mentioned that you went on to do engineering. So after you graduated from Edge, what did you do for school? What are you doing? What are you up to now? So
I did University of Calgary civil engineering. I graduated in 2014. And then I went on I'm actually still at the same company that I started with out of school. So that's EllisDon Construction. And I started as a project coordinator there, working on in our special projects division. So doing a lot of multiple jobs at the same time, but smaller scope. And then I've basically gone through a couple different roles in the company, and I'm currently a project manager, doing a couple jobs here in Calgary, one of them being the tenant fit out of the TELUS Sky for actual TELUS, the company itself. And then we're doing another restaurant fit out downtown Calgary. And then I will mention that all that while I was in school and now still currently, I've been coaching and judging rhythmic gymnastics. So I think Edge also prepared me for that, was to be able to have school and sport, and now I can have work in sport, which has been a really nice kind of continuation of that in my life.
Well, that's the one thing I was going to ask is, if you continue if you continued with gymnastics and or what you did. So maybe just elaborate a little bit more on that. That sounds really cool.
Yeah, so I retired from the sport as a gymnast in 2009, same year that I graduated, which is fairly common for rhythmic gymnasts because it is quite a demanding sport, flexible, physically, for flexibility and strength and all that. And I realized I wasn't going to be able to train the same number of hours if I wanted to do a 4-year university degree. So I decided to retire. And then I think either while I was still in school or immediately after, I started taking coaching courses and kept coaching all the way through university, which was a really nice kind of side thing to have because there wasn't a lot of people that were working while doing an engineering degree. So I kept going with that. Eventually got into the judging side. I've taken the national course a few times, every time that they re-up the cycle. And then now to this day, I still coach. It's been a little different with COVID. We had to do a lot of online coaching. And right now I'm only once a week on Saturdays, but I can still coach in the evenings if I choose, or go away to a competition and judge for a couple days. I do have to use vacation days to do that, but it's a nice way to stay connected to the sport.
So what led you down the path of engineering? What kind of drew you to it initially? Was it during school? Was it after you graduated that you kind of saw it as a passion?
Finishing in grade 12, I had a big push on the math and science side. I felt that those were my strong suits. And I think there was like a couple sort of university visits for presentations. Again, I can't remember, it's over 10 years ago now, that really led me to realize that engineering was like a really formidable path to go down and had a lot of opportunity. So I think the quality of the math and science programs that were at Edge, doing the physics AP class really helped me out and got me into that program, no problem. So, yeah.
And how do you like being an engineer? Obviously, you said you've been with the same company since, out of school, which is amazing. So what do you like about your job and, the fact that you've been with the same company? Obviously, you like working there, so that's great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'm a project manager, so it's more of the, there is in the civil engineering program, there's a project management sort of stream. And it's not a minor exactly, but you can take a few classes. And I quickly learned that designing bridges and roads and all that was not my forte. It was, sounds great, but it just felt not for me. I was definitely much more on the project management. Let's see this as a whole, manage all these moving parts. So that's kind of the path that I went down. So I'm not doing design engineering per se, but I do still have my degree. But yeah, being a project manager it's good. It's really it can be intense at times because sometimes if everything's on fire and you're the only one that knows the answer, or you have to coordinate a whole bunch of people, but it really lends itself to my ability to plan and schedule my life, which all goes back to training 20 hours a week while trying to get homework done in the car. I think it's just reflected itself in every phase of my life, being able to have that ability to balance what I'm doing and to schedule myself so that I can get everything done that I need to. What
do you do for fun? Do you have any interesting hobbies?
I mean, not right now. There's a lot of reading and a lot of Netflix and all that. I love traveling. I can't do that right now, which is unfortunate. Reading, traveling. I do a lot of hobbies at home, crafts and fun stuff like that. I don't know. It's a hard question right now.
It's a hard question for anyone to answer right now. So you don't feel bad about that one. Nobody can really do anything fun right now.
Exactly, yeah.
Anything that people would be surprised to learn about you, like, oh, I didn't know that about Olivia?
Oh, that depends who you're talking to. A lot of people that I work with don't know that I am still involved with sport, and that I'm a national level 3 national level 3 coach and a national 1 judge. I think, if you were to talk to my work family, you wouldn't know that. I like to keep those separate so as not to dispel any, or you can fulfilling your capabilities at work. And then if you asked anybody on my sports side that they didn't know that I was running multi-million-dollar projects, they'd probably be surprised to see that. So
just a secret life. How do you like being a judge in terms of gymnastics? Do you really like that side of it?
I do, yeah. I didn't like it at the beginning because it's a lot of pressure, and I felt like I was too fresh and new at it. But as I've gotten older and done it a few times, it's really enjoyable to do, and it's a very niche role. There's not a lot of people in Canada that are qualified for that, so I've been really trying to keep that part of my life. we're actually doing an online competition this weekend because everything last year obviously was canceled, and then this year they're looking at doing everything online. So I get to judge digitally and watch a bunch of videos all weekend this weekend, which is a little less satisfying, but it is still good to be in touch with those people.
Have you ever had to judge based on what you've seen online before?
We did it a couple weeks ago. We did a test run. So it's doable. It's not as enjoyable as seeing it in person, but it is doable.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for taking the time, Olivia. We really appreciate it. It's great to get the chance to talk. I graduated in 2009 as well, so same grad year. I think our grad motto that year, and it was terrible, was nothing finer than an 09er.
Oh yeah. That does sound familiar.
Well, do you remember yours? I went to school in Red Deer, so I guess that motto does make sense for Red Deer.
It was something similar. I don't remember it though. I don't know if there was an official motto, but it was something along, so an 09er.
I guess they didn't have much to go off of that year.
No.
Awesome. Well, thanks again. Have a great weekend, and it was really nice chatting.